Nate Eovaldi in the past, the second greatest pitcher ever from Alvin, Texas. No shame in that when number one is the Ryan Express. And so Nate Eovaldi will now go pitch for one of Nolan Ryan's former teams, the Texas Rangers, on a 2-year deal, $34 million guaranteed. As Matt and Anthony, we see the remake of the Rangers rotation continue. Jacob deGrom is there. Andrew Heaney is there. Eovaldi now joins them along with Martin Perez and John Gray. Both of them were signed since the end of last season. And here is now your rotation. In the span of a couple months, the Rangers now have one of the most star-studded rotations in Major League Baseball. I think for a long time, a lot of us expected that Eovaldi was going to stay in the American League East, specifically with the Boston Red Sox, because he, of course, had the qualifying offer attached to him, which we thought, therefore, would mean that in the Red Sox case, they would not, of course, have to give up the qualifying offer or give up the pick to sign him. The unique thing here with the Rangers is that they've already had to give up their highest pick to sign deGrom, and so the marginal cost of that next draft pick that you give up is a little bit lower. So the Rangers clearly going all in, trying to win in 2023 and fill up that beautiful ballpark there in Arlington, Texas. And to do that, they've got a native son in Nate Eovaldi.
You know, I had been a little skeptical as to what the Rangers were doing. They went out and paid the big price for deGrom, but they have added to that signing with some really great moves for me. And I'm now at a point, JP, where I'm buying the Rangers. And when you look at the offseason ads on that projected rotation board that we saw a moment ago, we didn't even list Jake Odorizzi. We didn't even list former first-rounder Dane Dunning, who is back next year. They've put together a really good frontline starting staff. And for those that are still skeptical about their bullpen, hey, not all these guys are going to be in the rotation. And if they end up moving Odorizzi into a long man's role or Dunning into a long man's role, that bullpen's going to be pretty good too. I'm buying, man. Are they as good as the Astros? That might be a stretch, but are they good enough to play in the postseason next year? Right now on paper, I say absolutely.
The latter, I agree. And I think what they've done is certainly close the gap on the Seattle Mariners. Now, the Mariners have a really good rotation. If you line them up, I think that's going to be one of the more interesting things and exercises to do here in the days ahead. I still think Houston's rotation is the best in the division and maybe the best in all of baseball, 1 through 5. But when you look at Texas versus Seattle, that's where it gets really interesting, because as we know with Seattle, they have so much depth that they could trade either Flexen or Marco Gonzalez. They've got Luis Castillo in the fold. They were able to bring up Kirby and Logan Gilbert, and how young and star-studded that rotation is based on that group. I think that Texas has gotten closer to that level. I really do. And with deGrom, again, when healthy, he's as good as there is in the world. And I think to sort of piggyback on what you described, Matt, about their overall offseason plan, with deGrom, when that deal was announced, I think you and I and Anthony, we probably all have the same reaction, which is it's certainly expensive and you've stepped out and really kind of probably gone beyond what your comfort level is, but it can make sense if you surround him with enough talent that you can hedge a bit against the reality that he's probably going to get hurt at some point, and also that you complete the rotation and say it's not just deGrom, it's what's happening on the other 4 days. And they've now done that. And to your point, Matt, when you consider this starting five, when you look at the age and the injury histories of guys like deGrom and Heaney, the odds of all 5 of these pitchers making 32, 33 starts, probably remote, probably not going to happen. But that's where, if you have Odorizzi and Dunning, you can supplement and make sure that you're in a better spot overall with your rotation. So I think they've layered in enough depth. I would also point out that one of the reasons why we talk so much about the importance of developing your own pitching. When you don't have your own pitching, this is how expensive it can get. Look at all the tens of millions of dollars they're going to spend every single year because they didn't really have their own homegrown rotation. I think that is the key thing to keep in mind, is that you can either pay for it on the front end with really good drafting and international signings and player development, or if you can't, that tab is going to come due later on, and certainly it has come due in a pretty extraordinary way this winter for the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, really good point. And